South African government has launched a new employee share ownership program. The initiative looks to offer employees access to a share of the profits generated by companies which they work for. Launching the initiative this week, President Cyril Ramaphosa hailed the program as an important economic transformation exercise.
Now, we've come a long way from the early days of black economic empowerment, where instances of workers as stakeholders in companies were rare. You might recall that when we started with the broad-based black economic empowerment, it was largely seen as an opportunity to bring in your black entrepreneurs and later your communities. But for the most part, the workers who worked for those companies that produces the orange juice, the pizza, and the beer that Minister Patel was talking about were often excluded. And they were almost like just objects, and not even their interests not even heeded, except for the wages that they earned, even in the boardroom. Now, the impact of these schemes were relatively limited at the time, in part because of the finite nature of the respective arrangements. In the intervening years, these efforts have picked up pace considerably. According to a study that was done by the DTIC, today in our country, more than 500,000 workers are part owners of the companies they work for. And I still think that this is a conservative figure, because I think many more workers in various companies have now become owners, part owners of the companies they work for. And by the way, workers don't even demand that, we want all of it, like Karl Marx style. They never say, give it all to us. They just say, we want a portion. We want a portion to be set aside, and that portion we can either have funded, buy in, or, as often happens with companies, it can actually be a share ownership scheme where it incentivizes worker and it is parceled out. Now, this equates, if you look at the 500,000 only, it equates to 1 in every 20 workers in the formal private sector working in our country. We are creating a new class of worker owners across the country. And this is a new wave that must spread around, and where we want to give dignity to workers, as these are not just managers, they are workers, they are in many ways ordinary workers who produce that orange juice, who work on the farms, who are mine workers, who are now amongst the owners of our country's vast mineral wealth. Mine workers own a portion, and they are workers in garment and auto manufacturing industries who are now amongst the owners of the factories that they work for. They are workers in the agricultural sector. They are workers in the food and beverage sector, hospitality, energy, transportation, and logistics, in IT, in the financial services, in telecoms, and many others. Now, these are the Maitinzwalos, the children of democracy, reflected not only on what choices to take to adapt to a rapidly changing world, but a world, as Minister Patel was saying, where there's climate change, a world where there's great uncertainty at an economic level and all that, but also on the critical issue of achieving social justice in the world of work. How we can engender equity, equality, and fair treatment of all who are involved in economic endeavors. In a number of respects, worker share ownership schemes are just such an investment towards the achievement of greater social justice. And the concept social justice is so important for us to always keep in mind in whatever we do, there needs to be social justice. There needs to be fair treatment of everyone, inclusivity. And we need to underpin what we do with the concept of leaving no one behind. These interventions are necessary for the sake of equal opportunity and addressing the historical inequities and inequalities, particularly in a country like ours, but also towards increasing productivity and the growth of the economy. You see, in companies, when they give your top CEOs, your top managers, shares, they say they are doing so to incentivize them to be more creative, to be more innovative, and to generate growth for the company. And quite often they leave the workers behind. And yet the workers are the real engineers of getting growth in a company, because once they are well incentivized, they themselves will walk through brick walls to ensure that there is more growth. And in my view, what is the difference? To enable and empower a CEO with, millions of shares and also a worker. They both need incentivization. They both need to have a sense of equity, a sense of ownership. And once you do that, you produce people who are going to lead to the growth of the company. So employee ownership schemes offer employees access to the share of, yes, the profits and the growth that is generated by companies to which they contribute their labor. Blood and sweat goes into growing those companies. And those workers need to be incentivized, to be remunerated in exactly the same way, obviously on a proportional basis, as your top managers. Moreover, they give workers a seat at the table where strategic corporate decisions are made. I've often made this point, and trade unions in our country have always been very reluctant to sit also on the boards of the companies they work for, because the tradition has always been the employers are the enemy and we cannot sit down with the enemy.